Friday, the 31st of July, off, despite the fact that the COVID-19 emergency $600 weekly federal unemployment benefits expires on, you guessed it, Friday, the 31st of July, all but guaranteeing that tens of millions of Americans will see their incomes drop by 50 to 75%, with another rent payment due in just 24 hours. So while Mitch McConnell is resting his corporate jowls, sipping on a mint julep in his old Kentucky home, reveling in the true art of irresponsibility, the New York Times is reporting that almost 40 million people do not expect to be able to make their next rent or mortgage payment. Almost 30 million Americans said they did not have enough to eat during the week ending of July 21st. And that according to Ernie Tedeschi, an economist at Evercore ISI, failing to resume the federal unemployment payments would cause a drop in consumer spending large enough to eliminate about 1.7 million jobs. That, my friends, are job losses on par with what we saw during the recessions of the early 1990s and the early 2000s. So please, enjoy that julep on us, Mitch, while the rest of us take responsibility seriously and start watching the Hawks.
If you want to know what's going on in your city, in your streets, you want to rise above the sheep, let me show you what you seek. See the uprisers, opioids, deep state on steroids, drone strikes, mass graves, war hawks and debt slaves, systemic deceptions, manipulate your mind, but the truth is our weapon, so open up your eyes.
Welcome everyone to Watching the Hawks. I am Tyrell Ventura.
And I'm Nisha Crawford.
And joining us today to discuss this week of irresponsibility in Washington, D.C. is a man who is responsible for bringing us the whole picture. That is the host of The Big Picture, Mr. Holland Cook. Always a pleasure, Holland. Thank you.
I miss you guys.
I know, we're so far away now. Holland, you've been covering the antics of Congress for quite some time now. How irresponsible in their duties are Senate Majority Leader McConnell and the rest to take a 3-day weekend when million Americans are literally on the brink?
You know, as you pointed out, the benefits run out, the rent is due, and I got a third bullet point for you. The eviction moratorium is over. And there are protesters ringing the courthouse in New Orleans, blocking lawyers from coming in to file eviction actions. So this is a hell of a moment to go on vacation. And I am so struck by Mitch McConnell's hubris, naivete. This guy is up for re-election and has a formidable Democratic opponent back home in Kentucky. And yet he's calling the extension not yet urgent. The House Dems passed this 10 weeks ago, and these guys go on vacation. This must be Potomac fever or something, because it's just impolitic of a swamp dweller like Mitch McConnell to be doing this when his job is on the line.
Great point. Very good point.
Yeah, that was a very strong, I think I'm thankful that you brought it out, because Mitch McConnell just apparently feels really safe in a very interesting election cycle. But Holland, do you think the Senate can recover from this kind of dereliction of duty, and could this backfire on the Republicans in the upcoming elections in November?
Free world.
Yeah,
If it moves, kill it.
this time. Take a snapshot of America. We have record here they go off on vacation. Admittedly, too much of the Washington but I gotta say, in this case, it's clearly more
I think we got on station. You're not.
credit, which
On
I
your
am
feet,
loath to
soldier.
give, he read the room. It only took him a day to walk that one back because the Republicans, McConnell and others, of whom are elected, this isn't going to happen. But I feel like I'm watching a Las Vegas magic act. You know, this is obvious diversion. Watch the other hand. Just as these horrible GDP numbers came in, 1.3 million Americans filed for unemployment last week alone. 33 million Americans are collecting or in application. This is such an obvious distraction from the economy and from the mismanagement of the coronavirus pandemic that I think people are getting onto him. Because we always take the bait. He says something outrageous, and it consumes the news cycle, but less so this time. He just got laughed off the front page.
Holland, you always have your pulse on the truth out here. So you know that the president and his minions have been hollering over and over again that mail-in voting is rife with fraud and abuse, even though the majority of his administration mail-in votes, including the president himself. Is there any truth to these claims of abuse, or is this just smoke and mirrors being played by President Trump?
Well, meanwhile, he's got his Postmaster General, who is a major Trump campaign contributor, cutting overtime just as we're expecting a surge of mail-in ballots. I got to read you this. I just spotted this on Facebook from our fellow broadcaster, Alan Tolles in New Hampshire. And Alan posts, if it's safe to, how do you put it? If it's safe, come back, Alan. If it's safe to mail security checks, stimulus checks, draft registrations, prescription drugs, passports, your driver's license, or the actual ID you would use to vote, it's safe to vote by mail. I couldn't say it better myself.
I think your friend just hit the nail on the head, because that is what everyone's kind of saying. Look, if it's safe to send kids back to school, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous what we're hearing over and over again. I think that you and the leadership said it right. It's really just diversionary tactics to try to keep the conversation elsewhere and not on the truly horrendous jobs by not just Donald Trump, but numerous politicians across both aisles in the wake of this pandemic. Colin, I coming up in the near future that we should be looking at as far as the big picture is concerned.
Yeah, watch this post office story. We're going to talk about it on my next show, which comes up after Steve Malzberg on Friday night, who comes up after you. And but this post office situation has been a long time coming, and they're going to be wait till you hear the stink on that.
I cannot wait. Thank you, as always, for bringing us the big picture, the one and only Mr. Holland Cook.
I miss seeing you guys in Washington. Eager to get back when it's safe.
All right, as we go to break, remember that you can also start watching the Hawks on demand through the brand new portable TV.
Care package arrived at the station.
All right,
enemy personal radar in the air.
TSA and Homeland Security seizing more than $2 billion from travelers at U.S. airports using this story. So stay tuned, watching the Hawks.
Got a sentry gun on station.
Cannot be lonely with the act you love.
Roger that. Nomad 2-1.
You're almost in the lead. Fight hard.
I think the average viewer, just after watching a couple of segments, understands that we're telling stories that our critics can't tell. You know why? Because advertisers won't let them. In order to create change, you have to be honest. You have to be every story is built on knowing.
Enemy called for emergency airdrop. Enemy care package inbound. UAV on station. Sentry gun down. Enemy UAV overhead.
UAV entering the AO.
All the dangers out to the American public. Those are stories that we tell every week, and you know what? They're working.
Take cover.
You know, it doesn't really matter where you
Be advised, UAV entering moving. Signal lost. UAV down.
Counter strike incoming. Take cover.
are, the water pipes that go to the building side. We were trying to It's time.
Something for you. Your
Enemy
story.
cruise missile incoming.
Hail from everyone, and this is government. And it is. A term given when law enforcement takes cash, gold, cards, and even homes from those suspected of being connected to criminal activity.
Radar in the air.
And one of the prime targets for civil asset forfeiture is the air. A recent report by the Institute of Justice discovered that Customs and Border Protection and other departments seized more than $2 billion in travelers and
Care package arriving on station.
billion dollars. The report was the first to show the use of civil asset forfeiture by federal law enforcement in airlines. And multiple investigations showed most of these were never even
Fire
called.
behind. Lead through.
People like Justin Kazaki, a U.S. citizen who returned his native to Albania. Kazaki had roughly $58,000 in cash in his luggage. Money he said was taken
Got a sentry gun on station.
and had his entire life savings seized. CBP officials claimed the cash was involved in smuggling and drug and it was worked. In 2017, the Justice Department Office of the Inspector General found that the DEA seized more than $4 billion in cash from people suspected of drug activity. The $3.2 billion seizures were never even connected to a single criminal charge. Civil asset forfeiture laws are broad. Property removal. That property, whether it's cash, cars, homes, or anything else of value, is never returned. Joining us now to discuss civil liberties at our Street Institute are the writers.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, civil asset forfeiture has been a topic of libertarian circles for years now, and it's steadily becoming a criminal justice reform policy. Why do you think it's so widely used, especially when, as we just talked about, many of the people who are never actually found guilty of anything?
Well, it's quite simple. These tools used to put pressure on individuals. It's not even a criminal case. I mean, if you look at some of these cases, it's like the United States versus $58,000, the United States versus a Lambo, the United States versus an airplane or whatever. You know, everybody knows to convict someone, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the individual is guilty. When you're doing civil asset forfeiture on the civil side, it's just that. It's a civil case. And so when it's happening, you only have to prove beyond a preponderance of the evidence, which is a much lower standard.
Stitch them up proper, that's how it's done.
In order to put pressure on individuals, very often to plead guilty or to walk away. I mean, this happens to immigrants all the time. And then they have no standing in order to take these cases to court because they're no longer in the country.
You know, this is amazing, and it absolutely is one of those things that just really gets stuck in my teeth when I hear stuff like this, because it's just upsetting to hear this. Look, law enforcement, they always claim that civil asset forfeiture is absolutely necessary, and we need it for the war on drugs. And subsequently then the war on gangs. That's, you know, that's always the big excuse. Is there any truth to this? And then secondly, I want to ask you, what happens most of the time to these assets after they are seized?
Well, it goes into a civil asset forfeiture fund. That money is, actually Congress has designed how that money is going to be split up. It very often goes to victims. That's a good thing. I mean, that's one good thing that does happen. Is it necessary? Well, it's really hard to determine. Is it a powerful tool? Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. It is one of the most powerful tools that the federal government has because it's instant. And, you know, because it's instant and you are put on the other side of the government and you have to fight against the government in order to get your money back and everything is against you. You have to hire an attorney. And remember, it's not a criminal case, so the attorney is not appointed for you. You have to do this yourself. It is an incredibly powerful tool. And, you know, it's hard to feel bad for the bad guys when this happens to them. You know, and a lot of assets are taken from crooks, criminals, and as such. I do find it funny that civil asset forfeiture is something you don't see a lot in the West time, because that would actually be the most effective use of it, but it's pretty rare. So is it effective? Yeah, it's effective, but it's effective against both the guilty and the innocent, and I think that is a major problem.
That's a great point you brought up about that not being used in white-collar crimes. I mean, that blows my mind because you think that, you know, if you're going after, you know, goons on Wall Street who are robbing people blind in their trucks, what's the squeeze on them? Interesting.
I'm sure you know this, but one of the big things that come up in police reform conversations all the time is the issue of trust. Is the trust gap widened between law enforcement and the public because of civil asset forfeiture cases? And if so, what can be done to stop it?
Well, I think this is, yes, it is incredibly destructive to the community relations with police because it's unfair. Listen, Americans have a long history of being able to deal with harshness and harshness. We have a tolerance for things that are unfair. This is unfair. It's also unfair on its face. On the street. When things do not feel like they play out equitably among us,
We've got a sentry gun on station.
You know, thing that we could do to change. And there's simple things we can do. One, we can, you know, ensure that where if you're not charged within so many days, the money is automatically pushed back to you. There are very simple things we can do, and even states that have done the right thing, like North Carolina, that have banned and they still process by the legislators. They don't want to do this anymore, and they just do it through a different. And I find that simply outrageous.
Well, I love your take on this. I want to ask you, is there legislation, you've been, and you said you've been, is there legislation or a model policy of ending this process of civil asset forfeiture and how it's being abused, and how can this system truly
Yeah, I mean, I have written lots of pieces of legislation in different states and the federal government. There is an appetite for it, and I think right now there are
enemy personal radar in the air.
Looking for compromise when it comes to policing and anything related to law enforcement, criminal justice. Those types of pieces try to end equitable sharing because it's seen as an absolute affront to the will of the states and as a conservative. You know, I'm a center writer. That is outrageous. We're all for states' rights until we don't want to be anymore. Then we can vehemently forget that is supposed to be one of our guiding principles. The efforts specifically talk about equitable sharing. They also talk about ensuring that there's some kind of proof that's beyond the count of the evidence. So if you want to hold someone's money,
Enemy personal radar in the air.
Beyond a reasonable conviction, but we don't want to go that far. At least make it the evidence. At least have something built in that if there's not or there's not even a charge. Think about that. A lot of people are never even charged, and they never get their money because what the government does is, okay, we could have proved the case. We could, so go ahead and fight it. Spend the thousands of dollars that it's going to take to fight it. And you know what most people say? And I give up. And then it's the gap is widening because
Thank you so much, Author Riser. Thanks for enlightening our podcast viewers.
New York City Police Department is all of the wrong headlines this week, my friends. Yes, the over $10 billion behemoth that is the NYPD has not only been caught on camera snatching up peaceful protesters off the streets Gestapo style and tossing them into the
Enemy
back of
personal
unmarked
radar in the air.
minivans, all because this transgender protester vandalized. I mean, if that doesn't call for some hardcore secret
Enemy
police,
personal radar in the air.
then I don't know what. Of course, being sarcastic is horrible. NYPD antics put on display for the world to see. The investigative journalist of ProPublica kept in their heads for decades. The American Trinity.
Amidst global outcry against racial injustice and police brutality, there have been growing calls for greater transparency and accountability.
You're in the lead. Keep it up.
Caused the public release of disciplinary records of the NYPD. One organization decided to take ProPublica is making headlines after publishing more than 12,000 complaints against 4,000 active NYPD officers, just days after Judge Catherine Polk-Fela paused the public release of the records amid a legal challenge by fire and jail guard unions. The database includes all allegations filed against cops spanning from September 1985 through January 2020. For further analysis, the outlet found that some 34 officers in the database have faced 40 or more allegations, while 303 have more substantiated allegations, yet
Enemy personal radar in the air.
the publication drawing fierce criticism from unions representing police and firefighters, which argue that the release could tarnish cops' reputations and jeopardize their safety by including allegations that were ultimately unsubstantiated. Spokesperson for the NYPD, while we remain committed to increased transparency, we are equally committed to due process. Legislation repealed New York State Civil Rights Law Section 50A, a federal judge issued a restraining order prohibiting of which allegations against our officers were found to be unfounded or unsubstantiated. Litigation. Meantime, to a union lawsuit challenging the release of such records. Stephen Engelberg, the editor-in-chief of the outlet, said in a statement, "We understand the arguments." The database gives the people of New York City a glimpse at how allegations involving police misconduct have been handled and allows journalists and ordinary citizens alike to look more deeply at the records of particular officers. Up until last month, New York State prohibited the release of police officers' disciplinary records, and now the judge's ruling blocked the from disclosing disciplinary records until August 18th, which is when the judge will review the arguments in this case. Reporting in New York, Trinity Channel.
All right, that is our show for you today. Remember, everyone, in this world, we're not told we are loved enough, so I tell you all, I love you. Keep on watching all those hawks out there and have a great day and night.
care package inbound.
She takes 2 prescriptions. One Jack takes 1 too. Sorry, and thought she had good insurance. She still takes too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. Good for you. Stop paying too much for your prescription.
Less than a minute. Enemy cluster strike incoming. Take cover. 30 seconds. Time's up. Move your arms.
Stop falling for exaggerations, distractions, and things. Where we always touch the more.
Who dares wins.
It's called the feeling of freedom. Everyone in the world should experience freedom, and you get it on the open road. The world according to justice. Come along for the ride.
Hello, everyone. Let's take a look at today's menu to see what we're serving up on Eat the Press.
U.S. Attorney General William Barr testifies before Congress, giving the media yet another chance to let their audience know just how they feel about him.
Besides questioning Bill Barr today and hopefully for you tripping him up,
with one MSNBC host openly urging a congressman to trip up Barr during questioning. Project 1619. Many believe it's no more than revisionist history. U.S. Senator Tom Cotton now says he plans to introduce legislation to prohibit schools receiving federal funds from including it in their curriculum. So what is it? Project 21's Horace Cooper will be here to explain. How are